All right, I think I could still say good morning. About 11:30 here. So we'll keep going. Long time no see. It's been a while. Good to see you guys here. All right, I wanted to go live here. We've been waiting for this and just kind of wanted to see where Bradley Beal was eventually going to end up. So I thought I'd just do a quick. Well, we'll see how long I go for. We'll just kind of maybe it's 15 minutes, maybe it's 20 minutes, something like that. But I want to react a little bit to Bradley Beal officially bought out and then signs with the Los Angeles Clippers. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on this. I think actually there's some interesting angles in here. Lakers were one of the teams that were a part of the mix. So technically, if you think about it, he chose the Clippers over the Lakers and the Warriors because it was going to come down to a Western Conference team, or I'm sorry, a West Coast team that he was going to go to. So we'll get into it. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. If it's the first time you're a part of the show, first time you're a part of the channel, appreciate it. Monday through Friday, we're live. We're talking NBA basketball, predominantly Lakers, but really NBA in general. And if you're always here on the show, welcome back. I'll get to some of your comments as we go through the show as well, and we'll go from there. Okay, let's. I got a couple of tweets here that I want to walk through. So a couple of things I want to do. I don't want to overreact to this, but I do want to kind of state the obvious here because it would be disingenuous for me not to. I don't think the Clippers just became the NBA favorites for coming out of the Western Conference, but I do think this is something. I think getting Bradley Beal, if you told me the Lakers ended up with Bradley Beal, then I would not make too big of a deal about it, but I would say, hey, that's a good get at this price. $5 million. I know he signed 2 years. I want to say 5 years for 11, 12 million, something along those lines. So I do want to kind of break down what this means, what it means in the West, what it means for the Lakers, how do Lakers kind of reroute some of their stuff from here. But I don't think it's a shock that Bradley Beal has signed with the Clippers. I think all indications were that this was probably going to end up happening. Predicated predominantly on the trade that the Clippers made last week when they traded Norman Powell, traded him to Miami, got John Collins, and then it opened up this spot where you thought Bradley Beal can come in there from a starting position. Okay, so here are the details real quick. So let me share this with everybody here as we take a look at some of these different tweets that are out there. Let's see how that looks if I share that. Is that coming in? All right, perfect. I learned something today on this learned a little way to make this a little bit cleaner when I share my screen. Okay, so here's what we got. This is what came out. Breaking news. 3-time NBA All-Star Bradley Beal has agreed to a contract buyout with the Phoenix Suns. Plans to join the Los Angeles Clippers on a 2-year, $11 million deal with a player option after clearing waivers. Mark Barnstein of Priority Sports told ESPN. So those are the details from Shams. This came out maybe a little bit less than an hour ago, something along those lines. Okay. Then we kind of continue to scroll. He had a couple tweets here in a row. Crux of the decision for Beal and his representation was finding the best basketball situation, first and foremost, once he was granted permission by the Suns to speak to interested suitors around the NBA. And Barnstein led an exhaustive process over the last few weeks. Keep going here. Beal becomes extremely excited about the route to part ways after meeting with multiple interested suitors, and Bartelstein. Is that two different spellings I see here? Then move forward with the Suns on completing the release Wednesday, opening the path for Beal to start a new chapter in LA. Obviously not the Lakers, the Clippers. And then the last one I'll read here. This now gives the Suns increased team building flexibility by taking them out of the first and second aprons, providing access to more tradable draft picks in the future, and opening up part of the mid-level exception. Okay, so Bradley Beal joining the Clippers. Let me first hit on this, and then we'll go into some other things from there, okay? So let me kind of give this piece of it its proper shine and its proper due. Once I mentioned that the Clippers traded Norman Powell, he had an opportunity to start for the Clippers, and I think that's probably one of the main reasons why he's there. Not that he couldn't start with other teams, but there were obviously a number of other teams that were interested in Bradley Beal. Why? Because it's $5 million. I mean, it's nothing. $5 million to go get Bradley Beal on your team. What kind of Bradley Beal you're going to get? I got no idea. I know last year he averaged 17 points, shot 41% from three. Phoenix Suns were terrible. They were awful, and his contract and the fact that he had a no trade clause and everything else was one of the main reasons why Phoenix really didn't have much. Bottom line, Suns were run, and they're currently ran awful under Matt Ishbia, and we'll see what happens to the Phoenix Suns. But his time with the Suns was awful. Now he's going to join a Clippers team, and I'll share something here. I thought Kevin O'Connor put something out here that I think is interesting. Kevin O'Connor just kind of gave everyone an idea of look at the depth that the Clippers have here. Here are the Clippers right now. They got James Harden, Chris Dunn as their guards, Bradley Beal, Bogdan Bogdanovic as their shooting guards, Kawhi Leonard and Derek Jones as their small forwards, John Collins and Nick Batum as your power forwards, and Ivica Zubac and Brook Lopez as your centers. There's a couple things that I think I take away from their roster. And if you start looking at a team like the Lakers, all right, we'll wait on some of other people are putting some other breaking news on the comments here. We'll take a look at them in a second. I think if you start looking at, the Clippers roster, I've said this. I think the Lakers are probably 5th or 6th in the Western Conference. And I don't think it's because Bradley Beal joined the Clippers that all of a sudden I'm vaulting them and saying, oh my God, that's it. The Clippers are the team to beat in the West. I don't think it means that, but I'll tell you what I do think it means. I think it means that it probably puts them in top 4 in the Western Conference. I think if you go through the top 3 and you're putting OKC, Houston, and Denver there, because that's what I would do, and I might be able to make a case that while Denver and the Clippers went 7 games, would that be a coin flip series? Maybe so. But I think it's fair to say that there are this handful of teams in the Western Conference where you're not really sure where they are in the West. And I put teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Golden State Warriors, the Lakers. I don't know. You want to throw Memphis in there? I'm not 100% sure. I'm not not sure how much San Antonio can jump this year. But there's just kind of this group of teams that I don't feel like are in that first tier. And are the Clippers better than those teams? Probably. There's 2 things that I see on this roster. Unbelievable depth. Just phenomenal names on paper. But that doesn't mean that's going to translate once the season starts, because you also got a lot of guys here, too, that are injury prone. You also got a lot of guys here that you just, you're not 100% sure what Bradley's going to be on this squad, or how many games is Kawhi and James Harden going to play during the regular season. So it's not like you don't have questions about the Clippers. You have them, but that's a pretty damn good roster right there on paper. Again, on paper. I don't think because Bradley Beal is a Los Angeles Clipper that they're going to be representing the Western Conference in the NBA Finals. But I think that's a good pickup because there's no risk and you're not paying any money and it's such a small amount. Let me give you guys an example. And I don't know if it's the best comp. DeAndre Ayton. I don't know what Ayton's going to bring to the Lakers. I know they desperately need him, and I know they don't have to pay $35 million for him. They only got to pay $8 million for 2 years. 8 and 8, so about $16 million. So I think it's safe to say, whether you love the Ayton signing or you don't, there's no risk in it. It's the same thing here with Bradley Beal. There's no risk in it. So Beal ends up choosing, again, this is Kevin O'Connor just kind of going through some of the depth on here. On paper, really, really good team. Bradley Beal, I'm going to read one other thing that I saw here. I think he's given back $13.9 million out of the $110 million on his final 2 years. How's he ever going to survive? The other thing here that I saw, ESPN as part of an article, personnel across several other teams, including the Heat, Bucks, Minnesota Timberwolves, and Los Angeles Lakers, sources said, pursued Bradley Beal and had extensive conversations with him and Bartelstein in recent weeks. Obviously ends up choosing the Clippers. I saw some other reports out there too that it was really coming down to these West Coast teams, and it was probably going to be between the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Golden State Warriors, and that's where Beal ends up. The last piece of this that I do want to share with you guys from, let me see here. We get one more in here that I want to share, and this is more on basically the aftermath of the Phoenix Suns and obviously what they were looking to do and everything else. So there's a couple things here. I'll get into Chris Paul in just a second. Let me see this. The Suns have a sizable, read this right here with me. The Suns have a sizable cap hit over the next 5 years, buying out Bradley Beal via waive and stretch. 19.4 million over the next 5 years. That's going to be basically dead money on the Phoenix Suns books in order to get, obviously to get rid of Bradley Beal, and that's the situation that they're in. Frankly, I think them taking kind of a younger approach and trying to go younger and rebuild this entire thing is probably the smart thing to do. Nothing was going to happen with Book, Bradley Beal, and Kevin Durant. So the last thing here that I did see on Evan Saturday as well, the Clippers are not done yet in hopes of fortifying their team as a top finals contender in the Western Conference. There's mutual interest in a reunion between Chris Paul and the Clippers to close out his career, where he played 6 seasons from 2011 to 2017. We also saw reports as well that Chris Paul wanted to be most likely in LA to be closer to his family. That's what he was hoping for. He might get his wish if he ends up signing with the Clippers. So, okay, there's the kind of meat and potatoes of this entire thing. Really excited that I figured out how to share my screen on a separate window and it doesn't jack up this. Oh, that was clean. That was clean right there. That's most of the stuff that I saw right there. I'm sure there's other stuff on Hoops Hype as well. I'm sure there's other tweets that are coming out as well in regards to, other things or storylines from it. But those were the things that I was able to pull before we got the show started. All right, let me take a look at some of the comments here and see where we go from here. And if there are some different stuff that are kind of breaking down as well. I saw some people put in the names, or I saw some people, I don't know if I just looked at the chat for a quick second. And it looked like there might be some other stuff cooking. I was doing the show yesterday with, I'm going to kind of go back here a little bit. I was doing the show yesterday with Trevor Lane, and him and I were chatting. And I think, a lot of people feel, I was listening to Mark Stein this morning too. He was on with somebody I used to work with, Mark Willard, who's up in the Bay Area, I think for KMBR is the station. And they were talking about Jonathan Kuminga and what's going to happen to Al Horford and all that stuff. I think that there is a little bit of a, hey, the Bradley Beal is one of the dominoes that have to fall first. And once that domino falls, that was then going to determine what happens to some of these other players that could potentially get bought out from somewhere else. Or we were reading the story yesterday on Josh Okogie and what happens with him. And the point I'm trying to make is I think this is going to free up some movement with some of the rest of the players here that are still free agents, or maybe some restricted free agency. We'll see how this has an effect on it, because I know there was a couple layers to the Bradley Beal thing that could affect if they wanted to get him and they sign and trade Jonathan Kuminga, would free up $14 million for Bradley Beal. So let's see if this kind of, I feel like the free agency for the last, let's call 7 to 10 days is in this like bottleneck where everything is clogged. And now you got the pipes cleaned up again. It's like, all right, now can we get free agency going again? We'll find out. Let's take a look at some of your comments here. Thank you again for hanging out. Please do me a favor. If you can subscribe to the channel, we'll really appreciate that. Okay. No surprise here, since he's never cared about winning anything. It's funny. I was listening, I was at a coffee shop when that news broke. I was getting some work done and updating a couple things and getting some clips that I'm going to put out a little bit later today. And on my drive back home, I was listening to Colin. So Colin was on, and they were talking about the Beal stuff. And him and I did a portion this morning. I was talking about, I don't know if you guys saw that clip yesterday, Jason McIntyre, who does the show with Colin or is kind of on the side there with him, was basically saying that if Lakers got Beal, go ahead and book for the parade. I'm like, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. So I was listening to, I just don't have that much value in Bradley Beal, definitely. And nothing against Beal. I just don't think he's going to be that much of a difference maker. Now, if he gets on the right team, I think the Clippers are probably the right team for him. We'll see what he's able to do in regards to that. But his other problem is he's never available. I think he hasn't played more than 60 games in a while. If you go look at his career, missed 58 games in 2 years with the Phoenix Suns. But I'm listening to Colin basically say, here's a reminder. The Clippers didn't even get out of the first round. Now they went 7 against Denver. Denver went 7 against Thunder, but they still didn't get out of the first round. So it's something to kind of keep in mind. And that stigma is always going to be on the Clippers. It just is until they do something about it. Nobody wants to play with LeBron, Bronny, and Redick. Yeah, listen, I will say this. I don't know what the Beal not choosing the Lakers thing means, but we can definitely make our own assumptions on it. Let me make a couple of assumptions. Okay, he could choose between the Lakers and the Clippers. He chose the Clippers. Does that say something? It probably says something. Don't tell me that this offseason has been, you know, don't tell me that people are looking at the Lakers and whether it's LeBron and some of the comments he's made, or through Rich Paul, the comments that he's made, the question marks about Luka Doncic, what's the direction of the Lakers? Don't tell me that doesn't have an effect on what players think and how they're going to make their decision. Beal can just look at the Clippers and say, I got Ty Lue as my head coach. I got some real talent over there. I could slot into the shooting guard. I'm going to be, I'm a starter. And there's 10, 11 guys that the Clippers can depend on, that it's not going to be all on my back. And if we lose, it's not all on my back. And if we win, it's not all on my back. Beal could just have simply made a decision, and that's all it had to do with. I think there is a little bit from a stigma perspective from the Lakers right now. They got some work to do. Absolutely, they got some work to do. And some of that is just their own reputation right now of trying to make the franchise look like, no, we're a winning franchise. We know what we're doing. We know the direction that we're going in, and jump on board and join the train. And listen, if somebody wants to sit here and say, oh, what the hell are you talking about? You're talking about the Clippers. You're right about that. But on paper, go look at what the Clippers have right now. Go look at what the Lakers have right now. Clippers have a better team on paper. See what happens once the season starts. Clippers got their backup center as well. They did. They got Brook Lopez. Watch Luka sign with the Clippers next season. All right, that ain't happening. I will say this. Somebody said this, that all right, let me go look. There's a lot of stuff coming on here. I'm going to keep refreshing some of Sham's stuff and everything else because people are putting stuff on here. Let me see. Yeah, maybe it's starting to move the needle a little bit. I will say this. Somebody put this out, I think last week. Somebody said that watch LeBron after this year sign for the minimum with the Clippers to try to go win an NBA championship. That's an interesting one there. All right, I don't know what to make of this. What is it? Charlotte Hornets discussing a trade that would send Miles Bridges to LA. All right, I'm not going to speculate on anything unless I actually see something. That way I don't, create unnecessary hype that's not there. I will keep Hoops Hype on. I'll keep the rumors up, and then we'll see if I see anything on there, then I'll shout it out. But when I'm doing the show live, it's a little bit difficult for me to do that. So I'm always hesitant to do that. One of the last times I saw, if you guys remember this, when the Luka trade was going down, and I saw people on the chat like, Slee, go check Sham's Twitter. I'm like, guys, what am I going to report? I'm not reporting on this. This is obviously he's hacked. And the next thing you know, I did a 3.5 hour show that night. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, so no, there's people putting some stuff on here. I will tell you this. One of the things that I think was one of the most important things for the Lakers, and I think people would agree with this, when the Lakers eventually signed, obviously when they ended up signing DeAndre Ayton, is they kept those assets. So if there's a trade to be made, and if there's something going down, and, clearly the Lakers have a relationship with Mitch Kupchak and the Charlotte Hornets, and they were about to make a trade in the past. Clearly, if the Lakers are to go make a trade and use Rui and use a first rounder, one of the most important things that you could make the case for the Lakers offseason so far is just the mere fact that they kept their assets when they got Ayton. That I could not emphasize to you more, just how important that was. That was so critical, so important, and obviously that was a big, big piece of what's been a part of the Lakers offseason so far. Whether Ayton works or not, you got him for basically nothing, and you still got all the assets that you have. When they were trying to make that Mark Williams trade, we all know that they were going to be losing some valuable assets in the process of that. All right, we'll look to see, but I'm going to keep rolling on some of these comments here. Beal has higher ego than Powell, would demand more ball control rather than spot up like Powell. You know, I here's the one thing I would tell you, Andy. I would tell you that they didn't just get Bradley Beal. You can say that they got John Collins and Bradley Beal for Norman Powell because they traded for John Collins, and then here we are, obviously sitting in the position that we're in. They got Bradley Beal for nothing, and they're obviously just using that five and change or whatever they're paying for him. I think it's $11 million total that they're paying for him. Does not move the needle for the Clippers. Doesn't need to. I think the rest of the team that they have moves the needle. Listen, it's all going to be about availability. I don't think anybody's going to look at the Clippers and give them the benefit of the doubt because they've never been to an NBA Finals. They got a squad. That squad, again, on paper, they got a squad. Clippers are the right team for Beal. Honestly, I think you could have made a case for any of these teams. I think you could have made a case for the Lakers. I think, if they were willing to and Austin Reeves was willing to, maybe Reeves comes off the bench and now that's kind of the star player that comes off the bench. Beal is in the starting lineup. He's got Luka and LeBron that will find him in the corners, and Beal, a 41% three-point shooter. You could have made a case for that. I think you could have made a case for the Golden State Warriors, and you could have looked at their situation and their predicament and say, could he be a poor man's Klay Thompson? I guess you want to say. So I think you could have made a case for a couple of these teams. Beal always felt like a Clipper. Bradley never winning. There's Laker fans coming out. There's the inside coming out. LA is not for everybody. Lights too bright. Stage too big. True. But I don't know if he didn't pick the Lakers because of that. I think he probably picked the Clippers more because of fit. So yeah, I think there are times where that might be the case. It's not for everybody. I don't think this is the case. So, Slee, your reaction to that? Yeah, I still don't understand the Luka thing. Okay, let's get a couple more of these in here, and then there was one other thing that I saw in Hoops Hype that I'll just get into, and then then I'll leave you guys alone for the rest of the day. The Clippers are now the best team in the West in my eyes. This move pushed us into a playing team. Okay, so Mike talking. Got it. So Mike it sounds like a Laker fan saying he pushed us, as in the Lakers, to a playing team, and the Clippers are now the best team in the West. I don't think they're the best team in the West. I think they got one of the best rosters on paper in the Western Conference. I don't think they're the best team in the West. I'm still gonna give OKC, Houston, and I think Denver that top 3 spot. Now, I'd put the Clippers at number 4. That's probably where I put the Clippers. And then I think you can make an argument for whatever the hell happens after that. But I will tell you, if that's the top 4, you only got 5 and 6 left to stay out of the playing tournament. So something to keep in mind in regards to that as well. At the end of the day, Ayton signing is a good job. I don't disagree with you on that. And some people don't want to give, credit to this, that. No, I'll give them credit. They got Ayton. They got their center, a 26-year-old. They didn't have to give up a first rounder and Dalton Connect and Rui and all that. They can save that. And if it's a Miles Bridges or there's another player that the Lakers are working on, but this, I do actually feel like this Beal thing could be the domino that gets everything else rolling here. Just the fact that the Beal thing is over. Let's see what we got here. Best team in the West, laughing my ass off. They're not the best team in the West. No. That's I obviously we'll sit and wait here, but everyone's chasing OKC number 1, everyone, and that's the entire league. And then, you can put the pieces together from there. Let's see what we got here. By the way, Jerry, thank you for the super brother. Thank you for that. I appreciate you very much. Let's see. Lakers may have the best offense in the West. Let me tell you something. If that's the case, you're not winning a chip. You're not competing for an NBA championship. That's not how it works. I know we could look at other teams. You look at look how potent the offense was of the Golden State Warriors. They also locked you down. Go look at the Showtime era. They locked you down. OKC says, hold my beer. You're not lying about that. Okay. There was one other thing here that I saw as far as the NBA rumors go. By the way, when I do my show tomorrow at 8 a.m., of course, if there are other things or other trade rumors or stuff like that, I'll start getting into it tomorrow. I did want this show to be just a little bit more specifically about the Bradley Beal buyout and the $14 million and the $14 million that he's given back. There was a report as well. Warriors still expected. This is NBC Bay Area. Let's see who is doing this. Warriors still expected to signing Al Horford, DeAnthony Melton. Those were two names that were also associated with the Lakers. This was a Mark Stein report, so I think there's a good chance that you should not expect that. And then the last thing that I'm just going to mention here, but we'll probably save it to talk about tomorrow as well. And I'll read a couple more of these comments before we wrap up this show. Mavericks won't gut roster to match LeBron James' salary in a trade. This was a story in The Athletic. One team linked to James, the Dallas Mavericks, does not have interest in gutting its roster to match James' salary in a trade. A team source told The Athletic, if there were a potentially better trade out there for the Lakers, one that would create cap flexibility while also addressing some of the team's other needs. James has a full no trade clause in his contract and could veto any deal that would send him somewhere he doesn't want to go. For what it's worth, I think this, my hope is moving forward, a lot of this chatter kind of quiets down a little bit in regards to the LeBron James stuff, and I would call it drama. Hopefully the Lakers now can kind of start focusing on their roster and figuring out what else they need to do in order to put together the best contender and then give themselves the flexibility after this year and moving forward. So that's the hope. That's the idea and the concept. And we'll see if the Lakers are in a position to do that. Maybe I'll hit on this a little bit more tomorrow, but for now, I'm going to leave it alone. Let's get to a couple of more of your comments. We'll go for a few more minutes and then we'll call it a day. Let's see what we got here. Clippers won't get far. LA is at best fifth in the West. I agree, Sean. Yeah, I agree with that. If you're just looking at the standings, I agree with that. I think there's, my job is not to spread false hope here. I think just you got to be realistic here. I think the Lakers roster with DeAndre Ayton is better than it was last year. We'll see how much the Dorian Finney-Smith hurts the Lakers. They signed Jake LaRavia as well, of course. But I think the West got better. I think Clippers are better. I think Denver's better. Clippers are also older. Now, Clippers are old, period. So let's not, that's something to keep in mind. Right now, the NBA, it's not necessarily about age. It's about youth. So that could be something that hurts the Clippers. But if you just look at the West real quick, I think Houston got better. I think OKC will naturally be better because they're bringing everybody back and they're already coming off an NBA championship. I think the Nuggets got better. We'll see what happens with Jonas Valanciunas, but I think they got better. I think the Clippers got better. And then I think there's a lot of teams. The Lakers really haven't done too much, but other teams had better off seasons than they did. Minnesota really hasn't done much, so I think they probably stand pat. I don't know what the Warriors are going to do, so I think it's a fair point. If you want to make the case that the Clippers are fifth, I don't think I'm arguing too much on that one. Or if you want to make the case that they're fifth at best, I'm not going to argue that. If LeBron really decides to try hard this year, Lakers could. So he wasn't trying in the past? Trade LeBron to the Knicks. Luka plays next month for Slovenia. That should be actually kind of fun to watch those the Euros, the Euro Cup, I think it's called. It'd be fun to watch him play. See what he looks like too, just the shape that everybody's talking about. Yeah, he needs to score more than 25, 7, and 7. Yeah, put that in the books every single year. Bron's going to be doing that, and some people will hate on it. The guy's 40, just a reminder. He's 40 years old. Lakers could be the number 3 seed. They could also be number 10. There's the Western Conference for you. Let's see what we got here. We're not better than Minnesota, obviously, so how are we top 5? Probably 6th. Probably 6th. Don't come with facts like that. It's a good point. All right, my people. I think that's all we got for today. Just wanted to get in here, put in a quick half hour. Bradley Beal finally makes the decision, signs a 2-year deal with the Los Angeles Clippers. I will be back tomorrow at 8 a.m. unless something else goes down with the Lakers or some kind of trade or something along those lines. But thank you very much for being here, and I appreciate you guys hanging out on the channel. Please subscribe to the channel if you don't mind. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. I will see you guys. Thank you, and hope you guys have a great rest of your day.